Good morning and welcome to this joint edition or the joint broadcast from Ghana Shot and from P Gurus. We're going to talk of a couple of things today. We're going to talk about Bangladesh elections which just got finished. We'll get a initial view and we'll have a detailed discussion tomorrow. And of course, we'll talk about Xi Jinping, the man who broke China and made India. But before that, I'll hand over to the whole story to Mr. Sree Iyer. Sir, you please take on.
Thank you. Namaskar, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, India. And this is something that was very unexpected in my opinion, because the way people were talking it up, they're saying that Jamaat is going to win hands down and that this is going to be a new era and so on and so forth. I think US again miscalculated. I had predicted before the polling started yesterday that this is going to be another egg in its face moment for the United States. And I think that is what has happened. So far, 299 seats are being counted. One is not, the election wasn't held because the person died. One of the contestants died. That happens. So out of this 299, the BNP is leading in 212. And the Jamaat is leading in 67. And there are many other parties, including a new party called Bangladesh Minority Party. I would be curious to see how many seats they win, because that kind of gives you an idea that the minorities are beginning to make their voice also heard. So we'll wait and see about that. But certainly, BNP would, in my book, be the lesser of two evils. But the fact that Awami was kept out of the whole elections, that, puts its own spin on things. My only curiosity event here, like General said, tomorrow we'll have a more detailed discussion. My only curiosity thing is, look how the BNP won their 67 seats. I have a small video to share with you. Just take a look at this. I think you have to add it.
Yeah. One coming.
আগে সিলতে রাখতেছেন কেন? ভোটারই তো নাই বাহিরে, অল্প কটা মহিলা আছে, মানে সিলটার নিয়মটা কি? আপনার ভোটার আসলে কি সিল দেবেন না আগে দিয়ে রাখবেন? আপনারা তো দিয়ে রাখলেন।
So looks like the election was held in a high school or school, or maybe primary school, because you can see the letters A, B, C, D and all that stuff. And, this is how the United States had predicted that the Jamaat would come to power. We all saw the leaked audio from Washington Post of an official, supposedly from Department of State, but some say that he belongs to a 3-letter organization, crowing that they are going to make sure that Jamaat is going to win. Anyway, it's still not declared, so you have to wait. Tomorrow maybe we'll have more clarity. This is certainly 2/3 majority for BNP. They may be able to bring in some long-term changes. What happens? This is a first-time guy. He hasn't really done any administration in the past. So lots of things still up in the air, but at least the worst of the worst hasn't happened in Bangladesh. And that's where I want to stop. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll talk more. Over to you, General. We are going to talk about now the more important topic and the main topic for the day.
Yeah, I think so. What people don't understand, I've always been saying that, India has two friends. The first friend is, Imran Khan. And the second friend is Xi Jinping. And this I said that at that time, that as to why these chaps are friends, many people didn't agree with me. And, some people agreed. But, my conviction was that both of them are ruining their respective countries. Okay. In the case of Imran Khan, he was thrown in jail, but the ruination didn't stop. Mullah Munir is ruining it even further. He's our better friend, actually. If you can keep him from, tolerate him and do the certain thing and keep him looking all over the countryside, he'll be even worse. But then, I did send you a clip about Balochistan and Akhtar Mangal. Something
Yes,
is
I saw
coming
that.
up, and we'll see this as we go along, right? We could probably discuss this on coming Monday, the Ghana side, about how this whole story will pan out. But that's Balochistan and everything for us. Coming to Xi Jinping, my view is, he has actually read China. Today morning, there's an article out in Foreign Affairs, a very good article, as to how US made China and how they are today at loggerheads with each other. In fact, there's one lady who has spoken out, which is I found it in the social media, as to Nixon's visit to China turned the fortunes of China completely, right, and made China what it is today. And when Xi Jinping and China progressed, we all know China has become a great, economic superpower and all that. When Xi Jinping took over China in 2012, remember, this is a time when the economy was growing at 10% per annum. Around that time, the Chinese had started occupying the islands of South China Sea, and the Americans didn't have the gumption to push them out. Right? Hong Kong was on its way. He was already undermining Hong Kong. And a couple of years later, by 2019, he had usurped it. China was at its peak power. The PLA was a feared outfit. Everyone said, oh, the way PLA is growing, greatest military on earth, all those timelines which he put out and everything. And there were a whole lot of narratives which were coming out from all over the countryside where people said, look, China is the next superpower. And the narrative was USA is in decline. This is what the inheritance of Xi Jinping in the first few years, and well into the first 3-4 years of his rule. Then he had come out with this Xi Jinping thought, and everyone said, "Look, this Xi Jinping thought which he came out, seals his control over China." He had carried out anti-corruption campaigns. Everyone was clapping them off. And he had eliminated all his opponents like 𝗤𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and all that. He had unveiled the BRI, if you remember. Just take your mind back to that thing. And everyone was waiting for a new superpower on the horizon, which will, sideline USA. This was the thought process of that time. So, this was his inheritance. You want to have any add to this, or any views on this? Your views, Sree Iyer ji, on this inheritance.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. See, everything was scripted as Hu Jintao was demitting office, because Deng Xiaoping had said there are only 2 terms per chairman or general secretary, whatever the top post is. And 𝗏 was supposed to be the person who was going to succeed. He was a charismatic mayor of a city. I don't remember the name of the city. It's not important. But what ended up happening was the MI6 operative, or one of the MI6 operatives in that city, got killed. And the city's mayor figured out that 𝗏𝗏𝗏's wife had a hand in it. And this fellow, poor guy, gets all the evidence of the crime. And he comes to United States consulate, nearest consulate, I don't remember which city, and he seeks asylum and says, here is the proof of what happened to this fellow. What the Americans did is something amazing. This, I think, it was Hillary Clinton who was the Secretary of State at that point of time. What happened was she and Joe Biden, who was the then Vice President, and Obama, of course, they knew that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 would not be the guy who will be succeeding. They wanted to make sure that they can put their control also on and a hand-picked person who is malleable and ductile. You can make sense of what that means. This is a scientific word, but you know what it is. And their choice was Xi Jinping. This is how the whole thing came about, sir. Not only, see, the worst part is that mayor, after getting all the information from him, they did not give him asylum, and he was finished off inside China.
Yeah.
The only thing Americans got was that their hand-picked candidate became the general secretary / guy. This was Xi Jinping. Sir, over to you. That's all I wanted to say.
I'll go with, that's the inheritance. This is my main thing which I was talking of. Xi Jinping inherited something very great, and then he started breaking it up. He broke it up over, he's broken it up over a long time. What I want to do is we'll take it, country by country and see how things mattered. Let's look at India. I mean, how if you go back at that time, I mean, everyone has to go back in time to understand what we are going to talk about today. See, if you go back around 2010, 11, 12, China was not our adversary. China was not our main enemy. In fact, 2014, if you remember, when Mr. Modi took over as the prime minister, he invited Xi Jinping, and both of them on the banks of Sabarmati, they sat in a jula, and those great pictures were there and all that. Today, I've not got all those pictures, but anyone can see it. And before that, Mr. Modi was very well disposed towards China, because as Chief Minister Gujarat, he had deep trade links and commercial links with China, and he had invited a lot of Chinese to come in, and he felt that India should follow the Chinese model of growth, not the communism, but growth. And we had learned to live with Pakistan at that time. We knew that Pakistan was our main adversary. We did not even dream of China as an enemy. We all knew, and let me tell you, from being an army officer, people used to say, you want to go up in service, you have to go and serve on the 𝗟𝗏. You have to go serve in JNK. You have to serve against Pakistan, and not China. 𝗟𝗏 is there; it's all there, fine. People, nothing will happen. This is the thinking, okay? And people had forgotten that China was an adversary. People who are born at that time, see something like what happened in Bangladesh. See, the youth of the Bangladesh today have forgotten what happened in 1971, isn't it? I mean, that's a fact. Similarly, the youth of today in India, right, in around 2010, 12, I'm talking of that far back, had forgotten what happened in 1962. They had no clue of what happened in 1962. People had got over it. Oh, people said 𝗥𝗙𝗪 chain, so what if it's there? So what if they claim a few things? People are more interested in economy, growth, future, those things. People had forgotten. Okay. Well, how did things turn? The interesting thing is, how did things turn? And this is something which one has to understand. And first it started with 𝗍𝗑𝗐. When 𝗍𝗑𝗐 was put out, flagship of BRI, all that, it went across our territory, 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗪𝗏 and POJK. So that was the first time when people said, oh, this is going across disputed territory with impunity, right? Then 2017, Doklam happened. They tried to come in, and we stood up. And for the first time, we stood up and felt that, look, there's a physical danger to the northeast and the connectivity to the rest of the country. Nothing happened in Doklam. We just stopped them and they couldn't go further. But the physicality of the threat came in at that point of time. Till then, no one perceived that threat. Then Eastern Ladakh happened. They said, look, people have started getting killed. They have bigger designs. Then there 22 Yangtze happened. They didn't let go. Then 24 Chumar happened. So with each small event, small conflict, small face-off, small everything, the antipathy towards China has grown. Now, what did it bring along? It brought along the fact that Mr. Modi went gung-ho on Atmanirbhar. We have to do everything on our own. If you remember, those economic barriers he put, apps were banned, investments were banned, hostile takeovers were banned. If you go back to the time just around COVID, there was a attempt at a hostile takeover of HDFC Bank. By buying up shares, that was all banned. Dumping was banned, right? Then we started doing the infrastructure development. Otherwise, who would develop the infrastructure? You started developing the infrastructure because we felt Chinese have evil designs on us, or infrastructure should go up, or infrastructure helped rebalancing, or it pumped up our economy, everything. Then comes Op Sindoor. It comes out that the Chinese were fighting us through the Pakistanis. Whatever the Pakistanis did, Chinese, Pakistani, this threat has become real. Okay. And then there's the issue of Chinese weapons and all that. And ultimately, if you see from all this is backed by Xi Jinping, leave alone the internal things. So from the time this happened to now, you see Xi Jinping has turned India from being some kind of uh, I won't say friend, but at least neutral, and feeling small in front of China, feeling left out in front of China. It has turned India into an adversary and a competitor. This is one thing which is very important. How Xi Jinping has shaped the Indian mindset into progress. This is my view. Your view on this, sir?
Yes, indeed. And some of these moves are pretty ballsy, I must say, because, weaning the entire country off of some very compelling games like PUBG or TikTok, which was really the social media of choice and amongst the youngsters, and just bringing the curtain down on them, was something that was unheard of. And India had to work very hard to make sure that these things would not penetrate in any other way. And I think that has happened. See, India does move decisively when there is a perception of danger. Also, I think under you, sir, armaments have made a lot of progress. What 85% self-sufficiency now in many of the things that are required in an essential in a war environment, where you need to be able to have your own shells and artillery, and you don't have a choke point imposed on you because some other country doesn't want to sell it to you. All those things India has gone through. What India has done is it was forced to spend a lot of money on infrastructure like border roads, perhaps also deploying people along the borders. There has been a certain amount of price that India had to pay for it, but I think it was worth it, because look where we are now. I mean, India is poised for growth, and it has survived all these attacks, overt and covert. Sir, I didn't know that there was a run on HDFC Bank until you told me now, because that could have been fatal. Because I have done the research on who really owns HDFC, and I can tell you, viewers, these are not people who are friendly towards BJP or from BJP. Okay, so you get the hint. So that's something else. I mean, amazing. So I think we have come through the worst phase now. And also, I think United States is warming up. And this recent verdict in Bangladesh will also make them feel, look, we really don't understand the ground realities in some of these countries. Perhaps we need to rethink our strategies, which is what I've been always saying. You can't really apply one yardstick and hope that it will come off. See, what they tried to do or what they managed to do in Venezuela is not working in Iran. Just to sell, you can't do the same thing again and again. Just because it worked one place, you take it and then apply the template somewhere else and hope that it will succeed. It's a fallacy there. So as far as India and Xi Jinping are concerned, sir, every time Xi Jinping came to India, he would do something where, like one of those border stripes, to try and put India under pressure, and then he'll say, oh yeah, we'll take care of it, or something like that. When the shoe was on the other foot, China did not like it. India went and destroyed a bunch of terror camps in Myanmar just before Dr. Jaishankar's visit to Beijing for one of these conferences. And then China said, you're doing what we do to you. How dare you? So this is the thing. The same problem exists with United States also. One unknown request to take care of a known thug got US's intelligence knickers in a twist. I won't say more than that because I know a lot more. I don't want to say all that stuff. So you see how some of these hegemons, when you get back the same thing, they're not equipped to deal with it.
Yeah.
So what should India do next, in your opinion, sir? Because we need to build on it even more.
No, I will come to that. I'll come to that. But there are more important things which I want to focus on. What India should do next is, but people need to understand that, where China is today. See, everything is relative. And people need to understand how whatever Xi Jinping, the way he has ruled China, is actually helping India. Right? And understand, I want everyone to understand the economic aspects of what Xi Jinping has done to China. If you don't understand that, then you think that China is still a big case and India can't progress. And how Xi Jinping has helped us. I mean, why do I say he's my best friend? I wish him 100 years life, and I wish him to be the his ruler for life, because he'll completely wreck China. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay, look again. Go back. Inheritance of 10% growth in the economy. It keeps going, throughout. Then suddenly COVID hits. Then during the COVID, he does things to their economy where the thing starts collapsing. If you see, the Chinese economy started going off rails after the COVID. We're not talking very far back, 3 years back, right? 21, 22. And in this period, it is actually during the stress of COVID that certain things start happening in China. First, he is forced to put the property bubble comes up. Till then, everyone was happy. Property. China going up, all that. He was forced to put the 3 red lines around the property. That's the first thing. The second thing, he had to cancel that Ant Group IPO of Jack Ma, if you remember, because it threatened his sovereignty over the system. Third, the EdTech and the FinTech, he broke overnight. One day he said, no more, all these firms are gone, dead. Just these 3 actions, right? The property red lines, Jack Ma's, outing, and EdTech and FinTech, which he closed, costed China over $2 to $3 trillion overnight. I mean, when I say overnight, over a period of 6 months. Finished. Right? Then he came out with harebrained ideas like dual circulation. What is dual circulation? Whatever we produce, people internally will consume and it will go out. And it will be followed with dumping. The same thing is going, only thing that dual circulation has failed. The internal has never taken off. Right? Then he started suppressing information about the demographic crisis, and now they are in a complete demographic soup. This demographic problem was known to all these people, including Xi Jinping, in 2010. They knew, and then he had the answers, but they could never put it because they felt that was all fake. Okay. Now he is talking of new productive forces, high tech, air tech, war tech, but he has suppressed consumption. See, ours is a consumer economy, India. So we'll continue to grow irrespective of what anyone else does. And if you get into a bit of manufacturing, you'll break the glass ceiling. But in that case, today China is only a one-trick pony. It can only export its way out of trouble. It cannot do anything else. Right? There's no consumption. And Xi Jinping is not promoting consumption in China. And that is why the world is making a beeline to India. Because you see, the thing is, the Chinese market is gone. What people don't understand. Why is Chinese market gone? Because the people don't have wages, they don't have problems, they are indebted, they don't want to buy anything. If they don't want to buy anything internally, that market is dead. People might talk against what I'm saying. That's a different story. But the fact is that there's no market for outsiders within America, within China. If you see Chinese imports, they're going down, their exports are going up. That is why the differential in exports is high. Right? As a result, today China is not a market. It can only export. And they're ruined. And people are coming to India for manufacturing and market. This is what Xi Jinping has done. He has not triggered that consumption. So I thought this is a major thing which we need to understand. I want your views on this aspect.
General Shankar, two days ago, China also banned all forms of digital currencies. And now they are trying to put the 𝗔𝗍𝗏. Why I'm saying this is because this was something that they had planned even before the move on Alibaba and technology from going public, because one of the things that's believed to have been the reason for that was that they were going to provide a way to pay for products using digital currency, and they didn't want that. It may have been one of the reasons. And the big challenge now for many of the huge investors from the United States in China is how to take it out. Money is stuck there. And the only way they can take it out is to take out Xi Jinping and get an even more friendly person and create an environment. It's going to take years. It's not something that's going to be...
I hope they don't take out Xi Jinping. I want Xi Jinping in chair. Okay, I want that money. No, I agree with you. But my way of looking at it is, see, the thing is that China was an economic powerhouse when Xi Jinping took over. Today, it's a big economy, but it stopped being an economic powerhouse where its decisions can be imposed on the rest of the world. That's the point I'm trying to make. And that is what Xi Jinping has done. And if that, we can talk of manufacturing, they're still a huge manufacturing nation, scientific, yes, everything. But does that get you anything outside? It doesn't get you growth. It doesn't get you anything. Everything is faked. So people don't like China, they don't want to touch China, right? If they can help it. Of course, there are a few countries who still go, but that's okay. Even the Pakistanis have started disliking China. That is why you see Asim Munir has flipped to USA. He's keeping China in the play for different reasons, but he's flipped to USA. So in this kind of a story, I keep making this point. The way Xi Jinping is wrecking China is great news for India. I want your comment on this thing alone.
You're absolutely spot on. The more he tries to do these things, the more India is going to grow. In fact, some of the things are in real poor taste. For example, he tried to stop some of the drilling machines, of which China has perhaps the best technology. Maybe others do, but they are probably not in the same price range as what India wanted. And he has tried to stop these things. But India will find a way out. These are the times when India will go and create its own. So the more Xi Jinping tries to deny, the more India is also forced to do it on its own. Because it can't go and buy it from somewhere else because it's much more expensive. Plus, you have learned your lesson. Your lesson is not to rely on others. So India has the capacity. We have Bharat Ratna Limited, which used to do all these things. So India has... I think India needs to step up a little bit more. We did a separate episode on this. What does India need to do to harvest this bonanza that's coming its way? And I'm sure things are happening. For example, HAL got outbid, or it was not even invited for bids on one of the things where HAL is considered as the lead technology provider. So these are all good news, because India also needs to realize that you have to be competitive. Otherwise, you will perish in the international market space. So the more Xi Jinping tries to do these things, the more India gets determined. And I think the younger workforce is also aware of all these things, General Shankar. I was surprised when one of the semiconductor plants was put up in Meghalaya, because I thought the workforce will not be able to go there. But India has taken that chance, and workforce is going there. It is something amazing.
Yes. There's no doubt on that. I completely agree with you. And look, there's another thing. What I'm doing is I'm going on each facet of how Xi Jinping has destroyed China, and in the thing how he has made us. Right. Let's talk of PLA. We've discussed the PLA in detail. Right. Whether it's Chen Gang or Li Shangfu, or the way he destroyed PLA-RF, the way he, today PLA doesn't have theater commanders, they don't have political commissars, they have doubtful weapons and everything, and we all know that military power is a major constituent of the national power, the comprehensive national power which China talks of. That is, he's left it in tatters. At this point of time, it's in tatters. And for all of you folks, I'm going to have a review of what's happening in China, because let me tell you, uh, that story is moving ahead. That story, the needle is shifting. The needle is shifting in China, and today the CCP is under threat. But that I will talk a little late, some other day. Just think, from a political and a PLA kind of a solidity which was there when he took over, to now we are talking of breakup of CCP, a weak PLA. It's a huge change. Your views on this, and I want you to explain from your perspective, how does it affect China, and how has it affected India as a thing?
Sir, I'd like our viewers and you to go back about few years when China tested its first hypersonic missile. It fell within 20 kilometers of its intended target. But what it did do was it woke up the entire world. Said, oh my goodness, these guys have a hypersonic. What are we going to do about it? And see, that is the thing. When you display something, show your hand, and you don't really have the muscle to follow it through, because it has not tested hypersonic after that. They keep saying MIRVs and all that stuff, but they haven't really done it. Because why? Because the rocket force itself, some papers came out in think tanks in the United States which laid bare the plans of what China wants to do. Who leaked it? Nobody knows. But the RF has completely, that is the rocket force, which is their pride, the pride of the PLA, has completely been, dismantled, I should say. And this was still, Zhang Yuzhia still was at the helm of affairs. Maybe he was brought in right after that. Maybe so. But he understands the reality of PLA. And now you go and take him out. I don't understand how PLA is going to line up and say, okay, let's go and fight Taiwan, let's go and fight India, when the guy whose voice of reason is being ignored by the political leadership. This is, to me, a fundamental problem. Any army, if it's not willing to obey its political master, it's the political master that goes. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, I go with you completely. And not only that, it's even the politics. You see, even his politics, he started, again, we have to understand how he has rigged China politically. People think everything is a monolith, and CCP is good, strong, it will not break and all. When Xi Jinping took over, there was a reformist wave within China. Hu Jintao era, great progress and all that. Come Xi Jinping, he turns to Maoism and does one purge. Then Maoism doesn't work, right? He cannot do reformism because he's a Maoist by nature. By thought process, he's a Maoist. He can't go reform. So he does something in between. He does a Maoist reformism. And that's what it has. And in the end, what has he done? He's made his political story lopsided. So he's today, see, traditionally in the CCP, there was always a set of hardliners. There was always a set of, reformers. Let me put it, the Mao kind of thinkers and the Deng kind of thinkers. Both are left of center. These were the two. Here this guy comes, he goes from one side to the other, and then he sees he can't go back. So he charts a new path. And that new path is his. I call it Zeconomics, political Zeconomics. Right? And today he's left China with neither. Okay? It's a fractured polity. And what I hear is there are two factions against him, and he's the third faction. So from two factions, the CCP has become three factions. And politically, and they're losing, public support. And you have done a lot of, podcasts with Elmer Yuan, who is from there. So what is the sense you get politically? Because everything hinges on polity. Your views on that?
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, viewers, I have to give you an update. Elmer did conduct elections for the democracy of Hong Kong, which is something like an entity that's going to be formed in exile. And everybody from Hong Kong, within and those of Hong Kong ancestry, actually voted in that. It was a very secret poll because people in Hong Kong were very afraid if the CCP found out what they were up to, that they could be penalized. And it was done in a very clever manner. And so far, I don't know what the next course of action is, but certainly Hong Kong deserves a democracy. They're very thriving. What has happened is, so some of the real estate has to do with the Hong Kong people also. What happened was real estate in Hong Kong was sky high, most expensive real estate in the whole world. So when China came along and said, look, invest in the mainland China, we will give you the same kind of terms as you would if you were to invest within Hong Kong, a lot of people bought their second, third, fourth homes like Real Grand Estate and things like that. And now what has happened? The reverse has happened. Hong Kong itself has regressed. So those who still had some money, who had not locked up their money in real estate, they took that money out. They either moved it to Singapore or to Dubai. Some went even to United States. My point in saying all this is that this fellow has an uncanny knack of, scaring away good capital. Even one of the Zhang Jiang's family heirs, who's supposed to be one of the richest people in China, he has moved all his wealth from Hong Kong to Singapore.
Yeah. So he's moved capital out. Yeah. Please carry on.
So all I'm trying to say is Hong Kong used to be also a fairly robust global center of trade, and now most of that has now moved to Singapore. Sir, that's all I wanted to add.
No, I completely. So the point which is coming out very clearly is Xi Jinping, had a very thriving Hong Kong. He destroyed it. Things are very great on the mainland. That's gone. Economy is in tatters. The political system is in thing. In fact, today in the morning I was seeing there's a report which says today Shanghai is almost dead.
Yes,
Shanghai, which is to be a very vital thing for America. I mean, China is almost in a bad shape. But now let me turn, why, again, you have to understand why Xi Jinping is my best friend. I call him my best friend because of the fact it's not only the internal politics, it's not only his economy, the fact that he's destroyed his army and all that, and that the fact that he's turned India against China. The more important thing of turning India against China is not turning people like me and Sree Iyer in this era. The next era, the younger people, the youth. And I have a connect with the youth, let me tell you, because I teach young people, the best and the brightest of India and IIT. I teach and interact with them. They are convinced that China is our enemy, right? And so this is a marvelous achievement, Xi Jinping, that he convinced our next generation that China is our enemy and that they have to do something for themselves, which is the future is thinking differently. Now, let me turn his thing to international relations, because people will not again understand why are people coming to us. People are coming to us because they've lost trust in Xi Jinping. They've got into debt traps with Xi Jinping. You look at, say, Sri Lanka. The turnaround in Sri Lanka is huge, because at the time of need, China was never next to Sri Lanka, but they are debt trapped Sri Lanka. You look at what's happening in Iran. I'm sure after this whole story, Iran and China will not be very great friends. Whatever happens to Iran, because China has not stood up next to Iran. What happened to Venezuela? China just decamped from there. So wherever China has entered, there the trust is lost. If we think that Russia trusts China, we are living in a la-la land. Okay, of course you forget about Taiwan. Taiwan though is completely this thing. And we had another major thing where this fellow has harmed. And this is a thing which I read today, and I'm going to read it out. what these authors have written about the China-US relation. He says the relations between USA and China have turned from cautious engagement to tense rivalry. That's the thing. Cautious engagement to tense rivalry with USA. Right. And a very important thing has happened, and people don't understand it. And it has happened in the past 3 months. And that is China's relationship with Japan. People forget that Japan was their colonizer once upon a time. You go back into the history of China, the rape of Nanjing and things like that. And there's a time when Japan was also a colonizer of and Second World War time. Thereafter, they go different ways. Then, as things change, Japan and China start trading with each other as a second and the third largest, global powers, economic powers. At that point of time, Japan was the second largest economy. China was the third largest economy. I'm talking of the late 80s, 90s, and in fact 2000, somewhere around that time. Then they start trading. They become huge trade partners. They have technology cooperation. They have all kinds of cooperation. But they never were militarily opposite each other. They said coexist with what Japan had. But today, look at today. See the turnaround. 𝗤𝗏𝗖𝗪𝗏 Takaichi, why did she get elected? When she elected and she spoke about Taiwan being, problematic for any danger to Taiwan will be a danger to Japan. The moment she said that, the Chinese consul in Japan said, you have to cut the head of the pig out. That's what he said. Wolf warriorism.
Yeah.
It came back. Right? Then Xi Jinping, twice 𝗤𝗏𝗏 got nominated as the prime minister. First time 3 months back, now after elections again. Both cases, Xi Jinping has not congratulated her.
Correct.
It's a thing. Prime Minister Modi congratulated her both times, met her. So has all the world leaders, but Xi Jinping has not congratulated. China has not even acknowledged it so far. Very important. Why I'm getting Japan? Why is, on the other hand, there's been a lot of media abuse and warnings given to Japan that you do this, we'll sort you out, you can't go anywhere, this, that, and all that. All this has forced Japan into militarization. Today, Japan is spending a lot more, around 3 to 3.5% on its military. They're looking at nuclearization. They're looking at a completely different thing. Today's Japan, in the last 6 months, this has changed. 6 months back, what China-Japan relations to what today are completely different. And in the process, you see China has militarized Japan. It has militarized South Korea. Same thing in South Korea is happening. Then Taiwan, of course, everyone knows about Taiwan. Philippines has gone completely against China in the past 3 years. Indonesia, look, Indonesia still has deep economic relations with China, commercial and economic relations. But militarily, they don't want to touch anything China. It's all USA. Malaysia. So, in the process, who are our best partners today? Who want to come to India? Japan. After all, our Prime Minister went to Japan. Philippines, he has come here. Indonesia, they want to buy BrahMos. So, whom are they guarding against? China. So, in the process, Xi Jinping has pushed all these people away and made them against. Not only that, even like I said, in the Middle East, today people are not favorably disposed to China. They're more disposed to India. We spoke about it yesterday, about the Red Sea,
Correct.
tactics. So, in all this, I think Xi Jinping has slowly but steadily destroyed China's relations with the rest of the world. And that has helped everyone coming to India. Your views on that?
Thank you so much, sir. Viewers, one truth that many of you may not know. You take a look at all these countries: Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, all the other countries over there. The richest families in these countries, you know who they are? Chinese origin. As a matter of fact, the original Mandarin, as it was spoken perhaps 100 years ago, is still there. China has modified its Mandarin and it's mangled it. My point in saying this is all these countries were sort of inclined towards China, and for them to move deliberately away and move towards India tells you a lot of things. Something went terribly wrong in China. That's the only way I can put it, sir, because actions speak louder than words. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, so you see overall that, I come back to my first thing, that Xi Jinping is my best friend. I do hope he continues, because if he continues, he'll ruin China even more. And as a rebound, India, which has woken up, I think there's a second awakening in India, that we should stand on our own. And let me also put it, you see the difference between Mr. Narendra Modi in his first term and later. In his first term, he didn't speak the way he's speaking today. In his first term, he was more, notwithstanding the Doklam crisis which happened in 2017, he was still okay with China. I'm talking of our Prime Minister. He didn't treat China as an enemy. Okay, but come 2020, after all, when did Xi Jinping take over China? 2013, 2020. That's when Eastern Ladakh happened. That's when things started changing, right? So if you'll be surprised at the number of times with Mr. Modi has met Mr. Xi Jinping before 2020. And it about 10 to 12 times in those 5-6 years period. After that, whenever he's met, it's met with, I won't say hostility, but antipathy, not great vibes. And many times he has kept going to China, Xi Jinping has kept coming to India. Things have changed, right? Our attitudes have changed. This changed attitude was thrust upon us by Xi Jinping. And that has helped us carve our own path. And the fact that he has wrecked China internally, and the fact that he has wrecked China's international relations have focused. It's like a lens. Xi Jinping has been like a lens which is directed for the betterment of India. Yeah, you're laughing, so you might as well give a comment on that.
Yeah, this could be one of those unintended consequences, in that India also under BJP was much more steady politically, and they could decisively do things that were not possible before because of coalition governments, right? So this is something that perhaps late reckoning, that they probably did not expect India to, like, for example, throw out some of the cell phone manufacturers who were trying to avoid paying taxes on the windfall profits that they were getting. Also, espionage. Also in 2020, they took down for 13 hours part of southern Bombay and Mumbai, and this was all said before. They said that we are going to do it. So that shows that, it's a certain amount of arrogance. So India went and tweaked its internals to make sure that such things won't happen again. And I think somewhere this guy has it in his head that, Hanification, we all talk about it, right? They think that that's a superior race. It's another Hitlerian streak that you find in Xi Jinping. Only thing is there is no war on the ground, but this fellow is going to meet the same fate as Hitler. Only thing is, again, it's going to be a lot longer, a lot slower, I guess. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I think so. So I think we've conclusively proved, I wanted to put this across. While China could be our enemy, the guy who's making China our enemy is our best friend. This is a paradox with which we have to, this paradox is something which we have to understand. I know this is a 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗏 topic. This is not a normal topic which we have to think of.
Correct.
But the fact is that this is an important topic is what people have to understand. This gives you a nuance as to, many things. Right, we're done with the whole thing. Should I take a few comments? Which I find a few interesting comments.
Yeah, please go ahead and sir, I just have to step away for a minute. I need to take an
Yeah,
important
please
phone
go
call
ahead.
and I'll come right back.
Yeah, please go back. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah. So this is a nice question to ask. Why not give Bharat, Z a Bharat Ratna or AVSM? I think we should give. There's no doubt about it. I am completely with you to say that he should be given a Bharat Ratna or AVSM. We should give him anything more also. Okay. Um, then the question, Amitesh, BJP won Bangladesh elections. What are the implications? I'm bringing it out again to everyone who's watching on P Gurus and on Gunner Shot. Tomorrow evening, join us at 8 o'clock because then we'll get a clear idea as to what the implications are. At this point, we only know that, look, BNP is heading for a two-thirds majority. It has implications. And Jamaat, which used to get about 330 odd seats, has doubled it to about 67 odd seats. There are undercurrents in Bangladesh which have come out in this election. What's going to happen? All these we will discuss tomorrow evening. We're going to have a panel to discuss. We're hoping to get General Rajiv and General Dushyant also, hopefully, or anyone else who is this thing, depending on their commitments. We'll discuss this. We need to discuss it more. I have no doubt about it. Yeah. So that's something which he said earlier also. Yeah. Shritik says, there have been reports that Taiwan will adopt a mixture of forward policy plus Cuban missile scenario by deploying HIMARS to Penghu and Dongin, very close to the mainland. Will PRC bluff and do nothing? Any thoughts on this, IRG? We can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry, I had muted myself.
Yeah.
So any army adventure or misadventure is not going to be possible because Zhang Yuzhia, who's blood brother of Xi Jinping, has had a look for himself on the state of readiness of the army, and he doesn't think the PLA is ready to fight any war. Forget about any country. And if the CCP still says go and fight, I can tell you there will be mutiny in the army. What they have done, what Xi Jinping has wrought, WROUGHT, that means he has really taken a sledgehammer to the PLA. This is not something that's going to be repaired in a day or two. It's going to take years to rebuild. And it also tells you that there's a lot of stuff that is claimed, but probably not ready yet. We saw PL-15E, right? PL-15E came, right? During Op Sindhu? Yeah.
Yes.
So we know the reality of their armaments. Anywhere, you take Israel, you take India, these have been taken head on. India did not hesitate. So it's a problem, very big problem. Sir.
Yeah, next question is, Deng Xiaoping's policy of hide your strength, bide your time was the reason China was a benign power for long. Post 2015, China decided to test waters with India and failed. Right? And I think the very important thing what he's bringing out, that if they had hidden their strength, they could have been a superpower, great superpower by now. That's what I have also written in black and white. The fact that Xi Jinping's judgment led them into a premature commitment of their resources for global supremacy, right? Without understanding their own problems. And that's why they're where they are. Again, I keep repeating, I do hope Xi Jinping continues for his third, fourth term. Your views on that, sir?
I'm still kind of at a loss to understand how China thought that the financial largesse they got from selling equipment and other things from being the world's manufacturer, that can be somehow put to good use by doing all these deals. None of the countries that they gave money to were in any position to pay back, forget the principal, even the interest. And why then do it? Because they have a lot of land. China is not land starved. Why would they want to do this? I still am at a loss to understand that part, sir. And if we are potential adversaries, whether I am a US citizen or an Indian OCI, I don't see the judgment I don't see the wisdom in their move to do this. They have been doing it for about 15, 20 years now,
Yeah,
quietly first, and then it just took off.
yeah. What you said is right, and in fact, it's a huge thing. Which I have read China. What I've not understood about China is, if you see throughout their history, throughout the Chinese history, China was never an outgoing nation. China did everything within China. It never went and conquered any land. Nothing, zero. But why has Xi Jinping done this, which is against the very fabric of Chinese civilizational history? Is something amazing. See, they didn't. If you see the world history, the history of civilization, all China didn't export a religion. China didn't export. Uh, China didn't export. What shall I say? Militarism. Nothing. All China exported was goods. It was always trade, trade, trade. It was a trading nation.
Silk Road.
Yeah,
Silk Road.
Silk Road. Yes, right. You look at India. India has always exported religion. Ideology, India has exported. It has exported far and wide. It has accepted ideologies. It has ingested ideologies. It has exported ideologies. Okay. Yet, in the recent past, the reverse has happened. That India has taught itself to be confined, and China did the reverse of trying to expand outwards. Do you see just the fact that what's happening now, what Xi Jinping has done? Are we getting back to the old story where China will hereafter be internalized and India will be externalized?
It's definitely a possibility, General Shankar. Just look at the kind of popularity and response people like 𝗤𝗣𝗙 𝗏𝗏𝗏 or Sree Ravi Shankar are getting. And they are not giving any Hinduism there. They are just giving way of life. One is looking at how do we regain the earth. The other one is talking about how do we use meditation more purposely so that we can calm ourselves. So these are all things that everybody is suffering from. And that the thought, how to channel it so that people understand how to meditate is a huge thing. We are not giving anything. They are not paying for anything. It's something where you go about, bring about change internally. And I think that India has always been good at, and I think India is going to continue to do that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I think we've generally covered everything. There's one tongue-in-cheek kind of a thing, but I have the courage to play it out. The only thing common between me and G is we prematurely ejaculate, okay? Celebrate. Jokes aside, prehistoric China would be a true friend to India. Would it be?
Sir?
Let's look at the second. Prehistoric India, China would be a true friend to India. Is that correct?
General Shankar, in my opinion, yes. See, if you talk to the average person, whether it is China or Taiwan or Korea or Japan, they identify people from Bharat as Hindu in some variations, and they always consider, at least people from China, they consider to die in India was one of the best things that can happen, like moksha. How did this happen? This is not something that was one day, 1 year. It was for centuries this has happened. We have temples in all these countries. We have so many different things, ways of worship. It's not just Buddhism, Hinduism also. So there is something that India has been doing with nothing expected in return. And that's what really makes a difference. And I think we live in interesting times, and we are going to be seeing more such things. You have to beg me, sir. You have to beg my forgiveness.
No.
I have to leave now.
And, we are leaving.
We can finish up.
Yeah, we are finishing. Thanks a lot for everyone who's attended. Because like I said, this is something which we have to start thinking differently. As a nation which is growing, we have to start thinking differently. I'd like to thank Sree Iyer for having joined us in the morning in this show called Good Morning India, and we'll continue it. With this, thank you. Have a great day. And Jai Hind to all of you, and Jai Hind to Sree ji also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Dhanyosmi.